Hey everybody, and welcome back to Threat X3 Productions. I am Nick.
And I'm Mike. Hey guys.
And today we're continuing our Resident Evil Ranked. Today we're going to be talking about Resident Evil 2.
Resident Evil 2.
Yes. To be clear, we are doing the remake, mainly because we're playing on the PlayStation 4 and we don't really have access to Resident Evil 2, the original. So I've played the original and the remake. This is your first time through, so that's going to be the only difference. Either way, we're going to be trying to rank it regardless. So just keep that in mind. Yeah, this being your first time, what did you think about the story overall?
Overall, the story, I like that. It basically, it starts out slow, and I really think it's cool that it wasn't starting off with Leo just in the beginning. It started off with the truck driver kind of just driving in.
Hold on. Leon.
Leon. Oh, God.
I don't know. Maybe he is a Leo. He could be a Capricorn or a Pisces.
Yeah. But anyway, it starts off with the truck driver, and he's driving. He gets distracted. He hits the girl, and then obviously she pops up again and bites him. I mean, as far as the progression with like how the virus takes over, I really like that. It's just, I'm just going to stop at this gas station. All of a sudden, everything's infected. And then she meets this girl, and then they end up going to town. But as far as story goes, I felt it was a little bland, to be honest.
Yeah. We do have the unfortunateness of it. This is really still stuck in the 90s, as far as obviously this was made originally in the 90s. And I do feel like they've modernized it as far as the look and maybe the feel of it, but the story itself still kind of feels like it's stuck in the 90s. And I mean, obviously to a certain extent they want to stay faithful to the original but still make changes. Like they made changes on the layout and the map itself, but they wanted to stay faithful. So I get that. However, cliche as hell.
Yeah, cliches. I mean, I don't know why. I get the sense when I was playing the whole game that it was just, okay, now that you're here, I'm going to send you off somewhere else and you're going to do this task. Okay, now that you're there, you have an item that now you can go do this task. And then it just kind of leads you around the map, but you're kind of bouncing back and forth. As far as the character goes, I mean, he doesn't speak a lot.
Yeah.
I feel like I would rather him just not talk at all, and I just kind of play and just listen to the different characters that you run into, get through. His parts are so small that I'd rather just not have it.
Yeah, interesting. I do like how obviously back in the day you got to choose between Chris and Jill in the first one, and now you get to play as either Leon or Claire. So it's like, I like that you kind of have an excuse to play through 2 times. Now the bad thing is that I do feel like in Resident Evil the original there were certain changes that happen whether or not you play through Chris or Jill. But in Leon and Claire, there's really almost nothing different other than you play as a different gender. Other than that, there's really not that much different. I think there's technically like an A and B ending or something, and it can change depending on it knows that this is your second time playing through. But that only matters if you play it doesn't matter like who you play first. It just matters that the game recognizes that this is your second time playing through it, and so it gives you a different ending. So
you almost... Okay, so you almost have to play the first time in order to play the second time to get the second ending.
Exactly.
You can't just get it the first time.
Yes.
You have to almost play it again.
Yes. And of course that's reportedly because I haven't done it myself. So, but that's what I've read and that's what I've heard. So that kind of makes it like, oh, okay, so then why am I playing through it again? Like,
yeah, because if you didn't enjoy it the first time, then what's the point in going in the second time?
Exactly. So obviously now, since we are kind of we're playing the remade versions of these games rather than the original, we're out of the the tank controls. What do you think about the gameplay itself?
Thank God.
Yeah.
But so far, when I first actually started, in the first 5 minutes, I noticed something that I really liked, and that's when, as you're moving around, and you're carrying the flashlight, you're actually doing a little bit of this. You actually get a little bit of that movement, and I like that, just because if you're moving around like this,
I thought I had that on
I
silent.
still feel like I'm just driving a tank still.
Yeah.
But being able to have that little tiny detail, that's really nice.
Yeah.
And as far as the shooting goes, love to be able to aim down sights. Love being able to I can just count my shots. And I
Yeah.
can save my ammunition, wait for them to drop, use my knife.
Yeah.
It's much easier to get through. I might say a little too easy, to be
Yeah.
perfectly honest. Maybe I died, 2 times?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I was battling the first, I guess, mini boss.
Yeah.
And I got hit once because I was so low health, but after like a little bit of time, I just realized I just got to run around. It's really easy just to pop them.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it.
Yeah. I feel like for me the controls being so good and you having such good control does add to the tension, because they now have kind of buffed the zombies, right? Because before they're just and then you can shoot them 5 times and then they go down. Whereas now you can shoot them twice in the head and you don't know if you're done yet. Like, unless you get that rare instance where the head actually pops open.
I've noticed if you're like catching them at like the side angle, you're basically just popping off their frontal lobe. That's when you can completely drop them. But I've used 2 to 5 times. That's at least what I've counted so far.
Yeah, exactly. And I do like the fact that you never know, because...
And you drop them, they come back up later after you're like crawling back through that same room. And
Yeah,
I'm like, I already wasted 10 shots on you. Please
Right.
stay down.
I mean, that does go to the fact that these are zombies, but they're not really zombies.
Yeah, they're like infected.
They're infected. So it's like they kind of like the tyrants, right? The tyrants have regenerative capabilities.
To an extent, they're like, you have to sustain a certain amount of damage for them to grow and then like regenerate. But
Exactly.
they're at that limit.
So I mean, like the zombies are more of like kind of the drones, so they're not as evolved as like a tyrant is. Like a tyrant, I'm imagining the tyrant has so much T virus that's why it's able to regenerate and have weird growing things and stuff. And so like the fact that we have kind of just these drones that are they don't have a lot of the T virus, but enough to reanimate their corpse. And so, yeah, the randomness of, okay, is that person really down? Like, I almost want to, like...
stab him a few times.
Yeah, exactly. I want to stab him a couple
by.
times because I don't want to come through here and I'm just walking, all of a sudden, grabs my ankle. I'm like, ah!
I started doing that. Once they're down, I just go and cut their arms off or cut their legs off really
Yeah,
quick, and then I wander off because at least then they're
Slower.
I'm not going to get as bad, but then the lickers, oh my God, I got cornered by one. Oh, that's brutal. 3 hits and that's it.
Yeah. I loved how they handled the lickers this time around, because I feel like in the original game they were kind of just like this little itty bitty mini boss and they kind of just showed up once maybe. Now they show up way more times, and I do feel like they're more formidable. The only thing is that there's this document, I don't know if you found it, but there's this document that essentially says they're blind. And so as long as you're not running around, you'll be fine.
I did, and I tested that. I
Me
walked
too,
around
yeah.
with the knife, and then I was just like, please, God, just stay up there, please. And then later on, when I was getting cornered, I was trying to be quiet, but I was carrying my gun, and I didn't realize it. I was like too focused on trying to find out where it was, that it came down, and that was it. I mean, once it pops into that area, you're getting attacked, whether you're silent or not.
Right. I just wish they would have used that a little bit more. Like, like in The Last of Us, you face the clickers, and so you could throw a brick, you can throw a piece of glass or something, and that gets them to go over here. I wish they would have been more than just a little mini boss that takes more bullets, especially since that's something very much in the 90s. It's like, oh, here's this different type of enemy that takes more bullets. And that's it, right? That's so 90s. That's so Raven.
Yeah. I mean, at least it does crawl around. It makes it a little bit harder to hit.
Exactly,
it crawls
yeah.
on the walls.
Yeah.
It has the tongue attack. Tongue attack. But what's his name? The fedora guy. What's his name? Do you remember?
Mr. X.
Mr. X. I've ran into the first encounter where he pummels through the wall, grabs the private investigator, that's what it was, and then he just crushes his head, and then walks away.
Yeah,
that's it. That's all he wants to do. He just wants to intimidate at that point.
Yeah. Speaking of Mr. X, so here's what I have to say about the entire game. The entire game is very well made. There's plenty of tension. The fact that it can be really dark and how tense that darkness feels. I feel it until you get to a certain point in the story and it is completely dead after that. So basically, you get to the point where you get that first tyrant. He has the big eyeball that comes out of his arm. Mm-hmm. After that point, you've pretty much explored the entire police precinct. Now it is the backtrack game. And you just go over here because you grabbed a key, and that key gave you wire cutters. So you go over here, and then you go over there. And that's how the beginning of the game was, but you didn't feel it as much because it was your first time in that room. It was your first time going up those stairs. Is there going to be something up there? What's behind this door? But when it's your third, fourth time going through this area, it gets so tedious. So Mr. X, I feel like they added that in order to keep the tension up. Because now that you know this area, but now you hear this and you don't know where it's coming from. You don't know, is he above me? Is he below me? Is he on the same level? Is he just around the corner? So that really added tension. I could feel that tension, but it was more annoying than real scary tension. You know what I mean? It was annoying because if I got to him and he was in a particular hallway, I either had to lead him over here and then get him around him, or I had to go a completely different way so I could get to a shortcut and get around him. So I understand why they added him, but by that time there is so much backtracking. You're going all the way upstairs. You're going all the way downstairs. You're going to the freaking clock tower. You're going over. It's just so much. And every single time you grab one thing, it's just to unlock this other thing that unlocks this other thing that unlocks this other thing. And again, that happens at the very beginning, but you just don't notice it as much because it's your first time through each of these areas. When it is your third and fourth time, you really start to feel it. Mm-hmm. Would you agree?
I will say that I've already started to feel that way once I started to realize I was not quite catching certain hints on like things I needed to do. So I started feeling a little lost, like I'm not exactly sure. Oh, I need to put this item in this item, and then I need to go put it over here. Yeah. And once I started realizing that, I started to feel the task manager, to-do list, back and forth, backtracking. Oh, I need to go over here. I need to go this way. And that's okay. I do like that in some aspects, but not if I'm exploring the same floor about 50 times.
Yeah. So I feel like it was so well written until you open up that secret passage. Everything is well written and everything forces you to explore. And so it's so well written, but you hit that milestone and now it's like, okay, let's move on to the sewers. Let's move on to a new place. Like they build it up to be where this is you getting out of there. But then when you don't, it's like all that buildup without a release is just frustrating. And it's like, it's one thing when it's like, okay, here's the helicopter. Yay, the helicopter's here. And then it gets shot down or something. It's a different feeling when you're just stuck in this freaking
Yeah, it almost would have been better if you open up the passage and you started to make your way down and then you were attacked immediately. Like it was a fight for life to try to get out to the next section versus you come up and now you're in a room and now it's like, oh,
yeah. Because then you just go to another room, which brings you back up to the first floor. You know, you have this like gut-wrenching goodbye because he's like, no, you're gonna come with me, you're gonna make it. And he points a gun at you. He's like, no, you get out of here, man, you don't let this spread. And you're like, I'm not gonna let you down. And then, oh, hey, hi again. Like,
Hey,
What
I
was-
can't get out of this building, by the way. By the way, do you have a back key somewhere?
Exactly.
Is there
It's
like
just
a desk somewhere? I don't know where to go. At
right?
This point.
Like, oh god, like that's what makes it like thematically and in the story, in the structure of the game, it makes so much sense.
wish
But
he-
then just you're
wish
just back
they-
to square one.
Going to that cop, by the way, I wish he did a little bit more. I wish
Yeah.
he was like on the intercom or something.
Yeah, you had a
or-
walkie-talkie.
Yeah.
You got to
something.
know him. Oh, I have a kid. And
I have a kid
Right.
or some like attachment, or maybe he could help you. Like, oh, hey, by the way, you do this and it'll hobble the enemy a little bit easier for you, so you can make it by.
Yeah.
Or, hey, go to this floor before you go over here because it's just like there's like a collapse somewhere. Just a little some extra detail.
Yeah, definitely. So let's get to the ranking then. For me, I think Zero still, even though it's the tank controls and it's still kind of, I feel like Zero stays just a little bit above Resident Evil 2 for me because, like, I like how there was cooperative, what the fuck was that? There was still some co-op in it where I needed that other person to survive. But in this one, Claire just fucks off and you don't
you're
hear
just
from
kinda
her
like, "Oh, okay, bye."
forever for so long. And you're like, is she okay? Is she not okay? So Zero story-wise and mechanically just inches above 2 for me because thematically it makes 2 characters make sense. Whereas Resident Evil 2, yes, the beginning, the first like third of the game where you're in the police, it's so gut-wrenching and but I feel like it just loses it. At least when you had the train, then you're in the mansion, then you're in like the laboratories. I feel like it kept things going. Whereas Resident Evil being stuck in that police station for so long, that's what makes it inch below. If I didn't have that, it would 100% be number 1. But because of that, I feel like it just inches below 0. So for now, for me, 0, 2, 1 for me. What do you think?
So I have to say it is a tie between 2 and 0 for me. as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
I like the fact that it's not tank controls.
Right.
But then again, some games it's really nice to have those tank controls because in 0 they did it right, and I like you can switch between the 2 characters. I wish that they did for Resident Evil 2 that
Absolutely,
you swap back and forth. Like you're not in a sense that you have to complete her part and then you have to complete his part, but like you're going to a certain point, then it stops his story for a little bit.
Ooh, yeah.
And then you jump over to her, and then you're kind of following her wherever she's
Yeah. Yeah.
and then kind of swaps back and forth. So
Yeah.
I will say I did actually change my opinion on 0, 1, and then 2. I'm actually going to be doing the same thing. 0, 2, and then 1.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I personally do like 0 a lot better.
Yeah. Yeah. I just like mechanically, like, yeah, even though it has the tank controls, it just inches. And I mean, it is just by a little bit because I do like the modern controls. I do like the modern look of it, obviously. And I even like 2 nostalgically is above 0. But because of the story and the way they handle it in 0, it's just a little bit. So far, where are you guys on the ranking? What would you guys rank it so far? Next week, we're going to be talking about Resident Evil 3, so make sure you join us for that. I was Nick,
I'm Mike.
and you guys have a good day.
See ya.
Let's just loosen up.
It's like an SNL with Chris Farley when he tears off his shirt during the song. Let's listen up. Oh God!
Hello, and welcome back to Thread X3 Productions. I am Nick.
And I'm Mike. Hey guys.
Let's do that again.